evening, everyone. Welcome to the WIP show. This show is actually powered by Keemiya Creatives. The idea behind this show is to unreveal the intricacies of writing process. I'm your host Namrata, and together we will discover new stories and writers in this show. The aim of this show is to inspire and connect with fellow writers and readers, where we will be inviting accomplished authors, publishers, and literary personalities to share their unique journeys, exploring challenges, triumphs, and the creative alchemy behind crafting captivating stories. Today, we have a very interesting guest with us on our first episode, Dr. Sneha Sharma, who is a communication coach and wordsmith, empowering effective communication through writing and coaching. Sneha is a PhD in media management and a faculty of communication and media writing. She also conducts communication workshops on how to write and speak better. Sneha has written stories and essays in the Times of India, Women's Era, Women's Web, and She the People Women's Magazine, apart from the children's magazine and the renowned literary magazine Kitaab. Her student film, for which she donned the hats of writer and director Adrashya Nari, won silver at Usha Pravin Gandhi Film Festival, Mumbai, and at Hawaii International Festival, and has been screened at many national and international film festivals across the globe, including the renowned Mumbai International Film Festival. Her first published book, titled Grandma in the Stars, a children's fantasy fiction, has been published by Ukyoto Publishing and is available on Amazon, Flipkart, and Barnes and Noble. It's available on audio platforms like Audible, Spotify, Binge, and Scribe. She's also worked as a freelance writer and voice artist for On Mobile, Epic Research, AVM Pictures, Purple Focus for independent documentary projects and government-sponsored documentaries, broadcast level ads, and PSAs. She was the national TV host and writer for Care World for their show Gorgeous You, trained one-on-one by celebrated voice trainer and voice actor Khodus Wadia. She has trained school children, college students, company employees, and housewives to speak and write better. She has conducted speechcraft and communication sessions for Infosys, Infobeans, and Trugajo Technologies. She also conducts coaching for writing and communication and runs a book club under the banner Wordnama. Here at Wordnama, she discusses her stories, books, children's literature, and offers some neat and friendly creative writing tips and techniques. The link to Wordnama, her website, is in the description below. So welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Namrata, and thank you so much for that comprehensive introduction.
Yeah. So let's talk about your first book, which is Grandma in the Stars, a children's fantasy fiction. What inspired you to write this book, and what messages or themes do you hope to convey to young readers through your writing?
Okay, so what inspired me? Well, I've been sharing my childhood stories with my two kids. And time and again, they would ask me to repeat those stories because they found them so fascinating. And I belonged to a time when there were no mobile phones. And when, in the summers when there would be no electricity at my Nani house, grandmother's house, which was a small village in Nashik. So we would just gather around an iron lantern and we would just share stories, anecdotes, play Antakshari. And those incidents, when I narrated to my children, they would just be so fascinated about it because how come, without mobile phones, you were so entertained? And they found the things very simple and yet entertaining. So I thought, why not to share these stories of my childhood, how I lived a village life to an audience which is wider than my own home. So that is how the idea came. And I decided to write that story, put it on paper, and get it published. Messages. Well, I have two important messages, at least one very important message. One is I deliberately tried to create a short story, which it's a novella, it's not a novel, Grandma in the Stars. And my purpose was to encourage the non-readers or the beginners who are just starting to read to pick up the book and start reading.
Right.
Because it's a very thin book. It's only 42 pages long. So my idea was to encourage, because my younger one, he's not too much into reading. He would ask me to read out the stories to him. So it was his, and there are many children like that. So this was one objective and purpose and message also, that just pick up the book and read. And I have tried to introduce many new words in the book, which do not come in the way of, in the process of enjoying the book, because I've got some very positive feedback from fourth graders, fifth graders, sixth graders. So they, who already know the meaning of a lot of words. And even if they don't, they are really interested in knowing the meaning. So they would just pick up the dictionary, ask someone around. So it is not coming in the way of enjoying the book. This was one message, that increase your vocabulary. And that is why the words, new words. And the second message is, we've seen that, children, many times they are not able to process. There are many emotions in them which are unprocessed. For example, if they lose someone in their family, the grief, they are not able to articulate it.
True.
So through this book, I have tried to, address that unanswered query, that where that person has vanished. They were just here around the corner in the house just yesterday, and now they are nowhere. And no matter how much the adults try to address their queries, innocent queries, that, they are in God's abode, they are safe, but, it doesn't douse their curiosity. So through this book, I'm just trying to tell them that they've gone there with some purpose. There is some purpose behind it. And that purpose, it's not necessary to know. It's just necessary to know that they are safe in God's heaven, in God's hands, and they are being taken care of. And there is something that they have gone there for. So like in my story, the grandmother, when Aisha tells the grandmother to come back with her from the moon town, she wants her grandmother to come back with her. So the grandmother says that, no, I'm here for these children who have been abandoned by their parents, or who died early. I'm here to entertain them. They don't know who parents are, or they haven't lived their life enough when they were back on earth. So I am here to entertain them. She would take them on adventurous rides and all of that. So this is my second purpose or message, that if you lose somebody, just imagine that they are, there for some reason in the heaven. And then you will feel so much better.
No, that's a very powerful thing, especially given, how the pandemic impacted our lives and how very young children got to see death in a way that it shocked even us adults. Like, we were never prepared for such things and the chaos that was there. So it's a very important theme and a topic that you've picked up, and I'm sure the kids are going to enjoy, and it'll be a very enlightening read. So, Sneha, your background is quite diverse, from media management to communication, coaching, and writing. So, how do you think your varied experiences have shaped your approach to writing and coaching?
So Namrata, it sounds quite diverse, but I have been doing more or less the same thing since the time I graduated or post-graduated. So as a researcher, when I was doing research on media management, I got to interview a lot of television artists, crew, and people who were into pre-production. So my area was television pre-production, television serial pre-production, for which I interviewed these people, and I got a hang of how scripts are done, or how drafting is done, or how they plan the thing which the actors, the dialogues which the actors are going to deliver on stage, or the anchor piece that they are going to do. So that was the first introduction to writing, my first introduction. Although I've been writing in school on and off, but that really fascinated me. The kind that the brainstorming, the ideating part, the content creation, then the editing, then redrafting, and then finally the execution part. So there were some production houses which planned everything down to the pin, what the actors would wear, what would be the set, what would the set look like, what would be the props, everything. And there were some production houses which did not plan that much in detail, but they were, it was like a skeleton. They had the skeleton or the rough draft ready with them. So I enjoyed both the formats, and I thought, why not to explore that more? And that got me writing. I also started writing. After that, I worked for Madhya Pradesh government Sanskriti department, for which I wrote a lot of scripts for the documentaries that they made. So, and I followed the same approach of, at first planning everything in detail and then going out for the shoot, because it saved a lot of time for the crew members, because everything costs in media. So that is how I learned. I got a knack for writing. And then coaching, I started recently. I've been teaching. I've been a media faculty for the past 7 years in the Renaissance University in Indore. And I've started coaching recently because I have, more time. My children have grown up. And now coaching is the same. I have been an ardent Toastmaster. Even now I am a Toastmaster, which is a public speaking organization. And in that, I have a lot of mentees or students, and I help them plan their speeches. So again, the same thing, we come up with an idea, they have an idea, and then we brainstorm it with me. We meet either online or at a cafe, and then we discuss it out. Then they would go back and write the first draft, the second draft, and then we would brainstorm again how to cut it down into a 5 to 7 minute speech. And then it's again shaping it up, and I just love the process. So again, the same thing. So writing and of course, book editing, you know how it goes. It was very challenging for me to write my first book, however. But yes, this again, the same process.
So this brings us to this question of, you conducting workshops on effective communication and writing. So can you share some key insights or techniques that you often discuss in these workshops?
Sure. So I have different age groups that I target. I also teach managers. I also help managers improve their skills. There are also children between the age group of 10 to 15 who want to play with the idea of writing or even taking out a book, or they would just want to improve their communication skills, even housewives. So I have a diverse set of students with me. So the activities are planned according to my target audience. For example, with children, we have lots of, even with managers who are working at junior or mid-level level managerial positions. So we have these impromptu speeches at which, we work with the prompts. And we also have prepared speeches in which we decide a topic, and I would give them 2 to 3 days to come up with a speech, with a structure, rough draft, and then we would work on it, take it further. And then we also have something called debate or turncoat, in which if it is the children group that I'm targeting, then we would have some amusing topics like pizza, pineapple on pizza looks good or not, something like that. Or what if pets are allowed to have a social media account? So we would just give them such topics which would entertain them and encourage them to speak more on it. So this turncoat thing is very regular with us. Then we have something called lightning slides. For example, we would just display a picture and there would be a name written of the student who has to speak on that picture. We would give them 30 seconds and the timer will start. It will be on for 30 seconds. Then the slide will change and the second student will start speaking on the second picture. And all the pictures are theme-based. For example, bad haircut day, in which we took the pictures of all the dogs with different haircuts. So we would have just these fun activities which would get them talking. So my objective is just to open them up as speakers. And of course, with writing, we do a lot of short story reading because book reading, it takes time. So in class assignment, we do short story reads and we discuss that story in detail. For example, I would ask them to draw the character arc. How did the protagonist start? What were the problems he faced? What actions did he take? And how did those instances change him? So the character arc, then of course, it would be how, if particular thing in the story changed, how would the end change accordingly? For example, the Thirsty Crow story. Now, what if you were the crow and you didn't find any pebbles around and the picture, how would you reach the water then in that case? And there are no pebbles. So there is a twist in the story, you have to change the ending. So lots of activities related to, then of course, voicing, tone. Suppose there is a passage. Now I would ask them to practice it in low pitch, high pitch, the same passage. If there is a character dialogue, then how would you speak that dialogue in a whimsical tone or in a playful tone or in a sarcastic tone? So we would just do a lot of activities I try to make them as fun as possible so that children don't get bored. And it's a very, very interactive session. I don't keep it one way.
This sounds very exciting, actually. This reminds me of one of our teachers who used to do this whenever we had a free period in school. And she felt that we used to waste our time playing games. So she used to have that impromptu, 1 minute debate kind of a thing. Then you have a chit box of topics, you pick up that chit, you just have 1 minute to prep, and that's it. You start in the class.
Yes.
So, Sneha, you've also written stories and essays for various publications, including the Times of India, Women's Era, and Kitaab. So, how does your experience as a writer influence your role as a communication coach? And how do you bring it in your stories as well?
It has immensely helped me, Namrata, because being a Toastmaster, we frequently require to prepare speeches because once we start progressing from club to area, then to division, then to district, we understand how to structure and shape the same story along the way. So these articles that I contribute in the magazine, sometimes they become my speeches. Sometimes my speech idea becomes that article. So they are quite interchangeable. So yes, I believe idea and the concept and the stories are the same. It's just the formats which change as a speaker or as a writer. Either you, and of course, it depends on the time or the word limit that you are given. You have to make it precise. You have to work with the word choice. It's more or less the same. So not much of a difference there. And as a coach, of course, the same thing. When people come with me with their scripts, I again try to analyze it. If I had been a speaker, if it would have been my story, how would I write it differently, or how would I make it as precise to fit it into a 5 to 7 minute speech? So it's more or less the same, the work that is to be done in both the cases.
Right. So coming to your student film Adrashya Nari, which has won several awards and has been screened at numerous film festivals, could you tell us more about the inspiration behind the film and your experience as the writer director for that?
Okay, so Namrata, that was long back, 15 years ago, in fact, and I was still a student, and this had to be my final year project. So I just read this news about a school which was a girls only school, and it was located in a small village near Dhar in Madhya Pradesh. And this man who started the village, Bhaskar Bhai Patel, he did it free of charge for all the village girls, not only in that locality, but the villages around, small villages around. So the girls came to the school, and everything was absolutely free, the uniforms, the food, and the teachers, I mean, the education, everything. So that really, I found it really fascinating. And I went, and before I started to shoot the film or write the script, I stayed with those village girls for 3 days and 3 nights. I
Wow.
stayed in the village, and that was one of a kind experience because I've never stayed like that. It was never, I mean, this kind of an outing. I've stayed alone without my family before, but this was something very different. And I got to know the reality, when I got to hear the stories of those girls, that in spite of giving free education, they were not allowed to go to study because the parents thought that it's a waste of time. Being a woman, you have to, arrange the household, and that is your life, and get married. And I mean, some of the girls were in tears, how their fathers, after getting drunk, would beat them up. And I mean, they gave me goosebumps, their stories. So that really inspired me. I have to do something, as whatever I can do, at least to, bring out the reality. And that time I had this project in hand. So I thought, that is it. I am going to make a film based on it, and appreciate the work people are doing around it, and, make a change in the society my way with whatever tools and resources I have or skills I have. So that is how the idea came. And yes, that is how I went about shooting it.
I don't know how to say this. I just watched Lapata Ladies, and somehow your story made me think of immediately that story. And I am confused about my thoughts because unfortunately, 15 years later, your movie and that movie, and sadly, we are still struggling with the same kind of challenges when it comes to women's education in this country. And that's what is more heartbreaking. Though we appreciate the movies and the stories and the voices, but still, yeah.
Yes, very true. Very true. Yes.
So, Sneha, this brings us to the end of the session with the last question that we want to ask you is how do you balance your roles as a writer, communication coach, and a filmmaker?
So Namrata, I'm not a filmmaker anymore. That was only one film that I directed, and I directed it because I couldn't find a director for my film, for my script. And everybody, all my classmates were busy doing their own thing. It was our final year submission. So my sister and my family supported me a lot in this. And I had to direct because I just had a cameraman, and I had to direct him to, I mean, just to take the shots, appropriate shots. So it was very challenging. This is not my cup of tea. I mean, deciding the right angle, or doing the right lighting. Everything had to be understood and then done. For everything, I had to ask others that, is this how we do it? So it was very difficult. For the writing part, the scripting part, I really enjoyed that because I had the support of my family. And of course, Bhaskar Bhai Patel was also there to, tell me the real background stories of those girls. So it brought a lot of real angles to the story on paper. But of course, to film the entire thing was just another thing. And how do I balance my life as a coach? Now, as a coach, I get more time. I have a little bit more experience of working in the media industry and now as a writer as well. So the people who are just trying to play with the idea of writing, I would definitely want to help them as much as I can. And I enjoy the process thoroughly of coaching. That is why it's not very difficult to balance the three things because I love all the three fronts of my life.
That sounds very good. Thank you so much, Sneha. I will be sharing all the links, the Amazon link to your book, to your website, and all the social media profiles. In case there is anywhere they can watch this Adrashya Nari also, we will also link that with this episode so that they all can come to know about your work. And please do leave a review for the author when you read their book. This is what keeps them motivated. Thank you so much for this, Sneha.